All Saturday night and Sunday, Florida State fans doing this. The sky's falling. The sky's falling. It's all over. The program's doomed, of course. But they're still going to play 11 more games at least. How about that? All right. We appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football. It's FSU Live, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on a Wednesday, as always. Right next to me, Georgitis, the Renegade Report. Get on over there. Check out George's work. And I think I recognize this guy down below. We got Logan Robinson here from Knoll Game Day, who's held it down here on our FSU show for years and years and years and years. So, Logan, appreciate you coming back to chop it up.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. I always keep in tune with what y'all got going on, still subscribed and everything. So I appreciate you, George, and of course, Mark, for inviting me back on here. It's a good time. I'd like to come whenever all the fans are pissed off and not happy, and everything, like you just said, Mark, everything's falling apart. That's the time to come in and have some fun, because I know that the clicks and the engagement is going to be strong. So, but no, definitely a crazy week of Florida State football, and we'll see what happens on Monday night.
We waited for this week to invite Logan back. No, Logan's invited all the time. Yeah. So he's got a standing invite. He can come back anytime he wants. So we'll start with you, Logan. So when you take all this in, how much of it was maybe as bad as people are pointing out, and maybe how much of it is like, okay, let's back off a little bit and realize it was one game against a decent team?
I think what you saw was just a really ugly game, and I think Mike Norvell talked about it today. Point blank, it was just not the way that they have played football the last few years, and they came into that game, I think, feeling pretty comfortable that they were going to go in and dominate, and they were going to have that same team that they had in 2023 show up and do the same thing in 2024 against Georgia Tech, and that just was not the case, and we saw that across all sides of the ball. And for me, just seeing the small little things that Florida State fixed 2-3 years ago show back definitely kind of scares you a little bit as an FSU fan. You know, we haven't seen Twitter like this before, where everybody's jumping in to do film reviews. Anybody that hasn't even done a film review or even knows about blocking or tackling or anything, everybody and their mother, my mom's posting about Robert Scott missing blocks off to the side. When it gets to that point, yeah, that was an ugly game from both sides of the ball. And it was an embarrassing loss. And Mike Norvell, you know, he has to eat it. The staff has to eat it. They did not prepare their team for this. And it's a good wake-up call. Luckily, you got a 12-team playoff. You go and you still have a chance to go and do what you need to do in the ACC, make it up to Charlotte, win it there. You can get to the ACC championship and make it to the college football playoffs. So you got it done in week 0. You hopefully learn you got punched in the mouth, but I think there is a lot of concerns in some areas that we're going to have to see a fix the next few weeks. But there are some things that can be instantly fixed, and that's just manning up, getting back to where you were last year and getting back into those mentals, because they thought they were kind of hot blank coming into it. They got punched in the mouth, and that's exactly what this team needed. But yeah, ugly performance, and nothing's to me blamed on, a ton of it blamed on DJ, because you already know what you're going to get out of your quarterback with DJ. We all know that it shouldn't be a shock to anybody. This shouldn't be, oh my God, DJ didn't, elude the pocket and gave me 15-20. This isn't Jordan Travis anymore, and he's not going to be a better passer than Jordan Travis. And that's what we kept on telling people, at least on our show, and I'm sure y'all did the same, that you lost Jordan Travis's legs, and people forgot he had a damn good arm too. There's a reason why DJ's been in college football for this long. You know what you're going to get from him. But I think Mike Norvell has got to have some blame here for not putting DJ into a kind of game plan to utilize that arm earlier. And it just happened to be that you're going to utilize him more in fourth quarter and fourth downs, where you're in desperate modes, which I did not like. But you had to do it. That should have been going on in the second quarter, first quarter. Just an ugly game from offense, defense, and the coaching staff.
So, George, you, just like Logan, I'm sure the emotions were raw. I know that they were, because you had us, you had to deal with the post game, of course. So I appreciate you being here and standing up like a stand-up guy for the post game right after the game here at the Voice of College Football. But the emotions are raw. But now that you had a couple days to step back from it and analyze it with a clear mind, where do you stand on all of this?
Yeah, I got a little bit of a mini rant on this and kind of a question for Logan, kind of how he sees it. He mentioned like a lot of the things from the like 2 or 3 years ago kind of popped up that we thought we were past. Things they figured out midway through 2021, and you saw really take shape in 22 and 23. I think the knee-jerk reaction, seeing that ball game and how tough it looked on Florida State's end, people are like going back to 2018 and 2019 and trying to make these comparisons. Like the whole program's going to fall apart. There's no way they're going to come back. It's set in stone. And I would challenge them, as Logan stated. There's a lot of people out there judging film and things that have never done it before. I'm not as strong-willed on that. I don't act like I know it all, but I'm trying to learn my X's and O's as much as possible. But you go back in those days, and you had Tamori and Terry out wide, Cam Akers in the backfield, and you'd be in max protect, and they'd send 3 guys and wreck your whole protection and sack the quarterback. Like, it's a different thing. Georgia Tech gets a pat on the back. Like, they had 8 guys in the box. They were firing all those run plays. And like you alluded to, Norvell never adjusted. We saw it on the first drive on the offense and the last drive on offense. But yeah, and we can get into why number 9 got so many snaps. I thought the depth chart changed this week, but apparently it's exactly the same. The top 3 guys just didn't get the top 3 snaps.
Yeah, and there was definitely, we were hearing things in fall camp, and I wish I was at more of these practices. Being away definitely stinks. And we heard strong things about some of these linebackers and not even just the linebackers, of course, a handful of other guys as well. But one thing that stood out to me too, you lost Greedy Vance. He's over there at USC. He's going to ball. He's going to get more playing time. But it's pretty apparent Earl Little Jr. isn't what maybe they were expecting to see this fall camp and make that kind of stride there. Kevin Knowles is up there making that start, and now he's on the depth chart listed as the solidified starter. There's no or there for him. So there's been some small adjustments in that depth chart that it was released just earlier, a couple of hours ago. And there's going to have to be some conversations had with Randy Shannon and his group of, hey, you know what you're getting with Lundy, but he's a veteran. He should know where he's at in some of these spots. Then you look at a guy like Nicholson, who seems to be bringing the heat and exactly what you want to see from a linebacker, and something that, Adam Fuller, I'm sure, really would like to utilize, because they used a lot of those kind of blitz packages too, as well, with Kalen DeLoach. You lost those veterans on the defense. You lost a lot of leadership too. I think that's something that Florida State's lacking going into this season. I talked about it numerous times this offseason. I think you lost guys that would hold each other accountable. You had Jarian Jones, Renardo Green. You had, of course, Jared Verse, Fabo, guys that, if you're acting the fool, or we're getting drived on. We're getting drived on by Georgia Tech. There's going to have to be a chat on the sideline. And I think everybody's a little bit more selfish going into the season. And there's a lot of NIL stuff that go into it. And it kind of reminds me of 2014 when Florida State had that big run, of course, winning the national championship in 2013. Everybody's already looking into the league. We're looking at what kind of money we're going to be making. We got selfish. You got to hope that resets, and that has to reset as they had their first practice last night, that, hey, boys, this is a team effort. We're not being this can't be a selfish type of team. But you lost leadership, and the leadership from last year, definitely in the trenches with, I don't want to name names, but it's a significant difference there. And I think it's hurting Florida State, and it showed in week 0.
Appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football. It's another Florida State night here on a Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, the Noles tee it up at home against Boston College. First game for the Eagles, but of course, Florida State licking their wounds after an ACC loss. And the last team to win the ACC after losing its first conference game was Florida State in 1998. They went to the BCS championship game against Tennessee. I'll credit myself for doing that research a few days ago after the Georgia Tech game. It was also easy on that first drive. So they worked on that script, apparently, and worked it down to a T, because it all looked good. And then the swinging gate that Joe Tessitore must have yelled about 18 times at us, that they worked the swinging gate well on the extra point, and boom, it was 8-0, and looked like they were off to the races.
Then Georgia Tech adjusted, and we didn't. Go ahead, Logan. I was trying to cut you off.
No. No, you're right. I mean, they had the rhythm going. Everything was fine. I think to me, what I don't like, and I've never liked it, is shuffling the offensive linemen. I'm over it. I'm over it. I don't understand it. I was worrisome whenever Alex Atkins told us that after one of the scrimmages this fall. I questioned that because you had a lot of already veterans guys on there. You had starters from last year. They return. And I understand if you need to make adjustments after a game on week one, but when you're shuffling around like it's I don't know what kind of board game to bring up because I don't play a lot of board games, but you're shuffling around left and right. I don't know how you build any kind of chemistry on an offense there. And definitely with DJ and what he's doing in his protects and making sure that he's getting things down with his protections and definitely switch up things if he sees anything in the run game that they can find a hole in, literally. I just not a fan of the shuffling around the offensive line anymore. I'm kind of tired of it. And for some reason, you go down, you have a beautiful drive. I thought the offensive line was making making the best holes we saw 10 times better than what we saw in 2023. I mean, these holes were beautiful. I mean, you and I, George, Mark, we get us a first down in some of those holes that we were seeing. And then something happened, something hindered, and we're making some shuffles and stuff. And you got Robert Scott over there at right tackle, and he gets blown to smithereens, and DJ gets sacked, which we've seen numerous times before with Robert Scott. It's now let's stick with 5. I'd rather roll in a couple weeks and see, okay, I've got 3 games on my belt. This number's not doing good. This guy over here is not doing well. Let's make a change here. But the whole shuffling from quarter to quarter, I have not understood that, and I don't. It's only worked before because you've had to deal with it with health issues. But you went in this game fully healthy, and you're still moving guys around. That's just something I don't understand whatsoever.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. Like, you've got 10 guys, ratchet up the physicality at practice. If a couple of them get hurt, like, find the 5 best guys. Like, if you get to where you're that dominant late in the year and you can start rotating guys in and do things of that nature, fine. But yeah, every year somebody gets hurt. Run with 5. 2 guys are probably going to get hurt before the year's over, and you get to 7, whatever the case may be. Maybe you switch somebody out. I think so on the running back rotation as well. I think 9, 24, and 13 probably should have got all the carries in the first half. I like getting everybody involved, but it seemed like, what we mentioned before, just a lot of confidence thinking you're going to go in there and dominate. I think that's wrapped up in a lot of the game plan. Part of what changed is Florida State never showed anything going down the field. I think it was the 16th pass or something that DJU threw when they finally threw it down the field. He had like a negative receiver rate. So I don't know if Mike Norvell didn't trust him. That's something we've talked a lot about, but I have the feeling what he showed there at the end and at the beginning, maybe they will kind of trust him more. And I'm sure he missed a couple balls over the middle of reads where he did have opportunities. We all saw him miss that late over route. He could have thrown another couple feet on that, and that's probably a touchdown by Ja'Kai and things of that nature. But like you said, we knew what he was. And one thing, if I'm not mistaken, like, we were able to get short yardage. Like, it wasn't like you could get the 3 yards in a cloud of dust and things of that nature, but they just kept getting themselves in such trouble running on 1st and 2nd down where it's just obvious you're going to run. Like, you've got all these seniors, you'd like to be able to stop them up, but you're not blocking them. Like, it was like just beating your head against a rock. I told myself I was going to get positive here. We can get into, what can be fixed and what can be done, because there is a lot of good stuff I saw in there as well.
Well, I guess the one thing that's not. Go ahead, Logan.
I was just going to say, too, just going to George's point too about the part about the taking those shots too with DJ. That's why one of the factors you bring him in is to match that with the speed, because we kept on hearing speed.
22.
Why are we running intermediate and short quick outs, and why are we running comebacks with Jaylen Brown, who's one of your top speedsters on the team? That makes 0 sense to me whatsoever. Why aren't we taking shots? And I understand DJ didn't hit some good deeper shots. I know Ja'Kai Douglas, that was an underthrow. Even the Malik Benson where he caught it, but it was off to the left side of the field, and it was a big comeback you still, if you get that ball up, yeah, you allow Malik Benson probably just a one-on-one to shake off the defender, and he probably takes that to the crib. So yeah, there's things that he's got to definitely improve on, but let him do that quick and early in the game so he can find a rhythm, and that didn't happen until you were desperate with DJ. And to give us a fair assessment of DJ, I want to see Mike Norvell allow this man to take passes in the first quarter on Monday night. Let him pass in second quarter. Let him take these shots. Let him learn where his, it's easy to do it in practice and going against AZ, and, not saying it's easy, but it's easy to go against those guys. Go against another team and face them, and let's see DJ and let him learn these mistakes early. I'd rather have this early than later, and sadly, you waited too long with DJ, and I'm sure Mike Norvell isn't happy with what he put together and the way that I think DJ was sort of limited in some sorts, and it's a different quarterback, and I thought Mike and the staff was a little bit more adjusted, ready going into week 0, but it was plain and simple that they weren't. But now it's time to respond. That's something Mike Norvell always has done a really good job on, and the staff has done a really good job on. The players have done a good job on, is response as we head into the positive transition here. The response is something that this team in program has done a really good job on. And can we see that Monday night? Absolutely, we can see that Monday night. The talent's there. The coaching staff's there. You've got a quarterback that has the experience to do what you want and need to do with him. But I think they kind of needed that little slap in the face and say, hey, Jordan Travis isn't here. Hey, Jared Verse isn't here. Hey, by the way, Brandon Fisk, Trey Benson, these guys aren't here anymore. It's time for us to step it up a notch. So here we are.
The hubris there for that, for sure.
Yeah, and Kalen DeLoach and Tatum Bethune. Just keep on.
Bernardo
Green, Jarian Jones.
You brought a bunch of guys in, but you still had your whole team. You had Jordan Travis. Like, you got a Fisk for the line. You got a guy here. We really underestimated, and I'm myself first, like, just the leadership. There was a major, major, major vacuum there.
Yeah.
Amazon link is in the description section of all the videos, including this one. When you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. It's the same shopping experience. Does not cost you a penny. We got Logan Robinson here from Noel Game Day. George is here as always from the Renegade Report. How much was Alex Atkins missed? Because he's not coming back for a few weeks.
I don't know if it was a major miss because of Fertitta that's in there. That is the practically best friend, co-assistant practically with the offensive line unit. I'm sure, of course, yes, there's a big advantage of having Alex Atkins there on the field, also just communicating with Mike Norvell. There's definitely a lot more than I think there is, for sure, 110%. But just going off of how close-knit that relationship is with Atkins and Fertitta, I think what we saw offensive line-wise, it was working. And then something happened and some shuffling happened. And, that could have played a factor too. Maybe Atkins wouldn't have done all that shuffling if he was there on the sidelines. But you got 2 more games, and that's where you can fix it. But at the end of the day, this is Mike Norvell's offense. He knows it in and out. This is what he plans it. He writes it. He game plans it Saturday to Saturday, and it goes onto his shoulders. But I wouldn't take Atkins not being on the sideline too much and what the failures were on Saturday with the O-line or the offense overall.
Yeah, that's the main thing I would think. Just like when you did get hit in the face, maybe he could rally the troops. Or the one kind of place I think maybe you could miss Atkins if you're Norvell on the team is like maybe Gabe Fertitta can't walk up to Norvell and be like, hey, maybe we need to switch the game plan up. Maybe Alex Atkins can, and I don't know if that's just total sports talk radio stuff.
So now with Boston College coming in, obviously these two teams played a game last year that was on the edge. And if Boston College doesn't commit a face mask, then they've got a shot to get the ball back. They will get the ball back and then possibly make a few plays, get into field goal range, and pull off a major upset. That didn't happen. And so when you guys talk about Florida State bouncing back, my thought is, okay, this is where we see, because some teams bounce back because they get kicked and they respond the right way. They get mad, they get focused, they get angry, and they tunnel vision that the right way and focus. Other groups may look at and think, yeah, Verse isn't here, Travis isn't here, Fisk isn't, and run down all the names that you just did and thought, and maybe the confidence issue sets in and they think, and they take a confidence hit and it goes the other way. So it can go either way from a psychological standpoint from here on out, but certainly Boston College has been on the field with these guys and they know, at least from one experience, hey, we can hang. So they've got to come in, you would think, with some level of confidence, even though they're going to be sold by Bill O'Brien. Okay, they're a wounded animal. They're down. They're going to come out fighting. They're at home. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. So you need to be ready for this. But the players know, okay, we've been on the field with these guys. We can hang.
Mm-hmm. They do. And then, Boston College always brings physicality. I always think of them, even when I was younger, like, they always just brought it on Saturdays and gave Florida State usually a run for their money. But now you got Bill O'Brien over there. You've got a studded running back room there. And of course, we know Trayshawn Ward, Castellanos at quarterback. You got 3 threats there in the run game, which kind of definitely scares you after what you saw on Saturday from Florida State. But for Florida State's game last year, they just scrape by, man. I mean, if Boston College doesn't just decide to have a penalty every other play or every penalty that they had, every play, it was just like, okay, just allowing Florida State to stay in that game and stay alive and stay undefeated on the regular season. That was a very, very, very close game. And, I'm early expecting this to be the same way on Monday. I'm interested to see what we have at practice tomorrow and such, but it's not going to be, if you see the same product, just plain and simple. Same product that we saw on Saturday against Georgia Tech is out there on Monday night, you lose the game. It's just plain and simple. There's nothing else that really needs to go into it. They've got some threats. I think Trayshawn Ward is a damn good running back. Thought he's always been. There's a reason why he became the starter coming out from a walk-on. And they're going to see how they utilize him. But they've got another running back too as well. I forget his name, but he's also a stud there too. And like I said, Castellanos was able to shred last year, and he was just a youngster. Now let's see what he's been able to do going into his another year. But yeah, that's got to be the case. And then offensively, there's got to be, the line stays together for whatever you can do. But in the end all be all, I want to see this wide receiver unit and Kyle Morlock be a little bit more utilized with DJ's arm. I think that's just kind of plain and simple, because you have to do that in order to get the run game going. You have to do that to get the run game going. So if you don't, then coordinators aren't going to care about what you're doing and what DJ's doing. They're just going to load up that box and eat you, just like what we saw last weekend.
We're not dominant enough to telegraph things and run into them. We're just not that dominant. Like, it's going to have to get back to, maybe when you have lesser talent, because these guys aren't, they may be the most talented group you've ever had, but they're damn sure not the most experienced, especially together. There's a couple ways you can look at Castellanos. Like, yeah, he was young. Was that even his first start against us? It was definitely a surprise. That was his coming out party. So you can look at it as, okay, now there's tape on him for a good year. Or like you said, he's a year better, and everything to that nature. I don't know, coming off having, 8 months to prepare, I don't know how much having the tape on him will be, because this is, again, week 1. So it'll be kind of a surprise. Boston College is getting to debut all of their stuff. But I do have high hopes. The main things is kind of what we talked about. You hit on Morlock. That was another thing when you're watching the film back. It seemed like on 70% of the plays where there's an incompletion or this or that happened, you're looking at Morlock running free from somebody or about to break open in his zone as he crosses somebody's face. So definitely want to see him get the ball. He was shorthanded in the game the other day. But yeah, Jen already decided. She already picked Boston College. I haven't made a pick yet. We're going to do it Friday. But, yeah, you just have to see it. If it doesn't happen, we can go to looking back to 1988. We can just go back another decade when FSU started 0-2 and then won out. So there's always going to be something to look for. But, yeah, I think it's all there. I want to see 9, 13, and 24 get the bulk of the snaps. What do you think? Because you talked about shrinking that offensive line rotation. It's pretty set now. We've got Byers. They took the Orr away from him. The only or left there is going to be the right guard with 69 and 75. Are you leaning one way or the other there? It's kind of tough. I almost say 75, but they've both got their pros and cons. You definitely see why the or's still there with those two.
Yeah, I think with Ferguson, his thing with Bama was that limitation on and your run game. And it's just then you've got Keandre in there too, which I thought he had a good season for you last year. Nothing crazy, nothing brutally awful. Just things were able to go pretty smoothly for the most part. But I know that's probably going to be another. I guess we look at oars, and now we're going to be like, oh, that's a shuffling situation. Get ready to see the shuffling on Saturdays. Maybe that's just Atkins telling us this is what we should expect. Which I understand that you want to do that. I think you give a player a game, and you give other player another game if that's going to be the case. And I know that's not easy to do because you're going into another ACC opponent. Blah blah blah, but I want to stick Keandre just because he knows the system and he's been around the longest, obviously. But then you have a lot of upside, maybe with TJ. But if you're going to try to get the run game going, that's what to me is really important. Yeah. But yeah, everything's solidified outside that. I thought Darius, if we're going to talk some positive, I thought Darius had a good game. I mean, it's crazy just to see the growth from him. I don't want him shuffling anywhere at this rate. I want him at left tackle, and that's where he better not move anywhere at all for the rest of the season. I don't care who gets hurt on the line. He better not go to center. I don't want to see him at guard. I don't see him at right tackle. He needs to stay at left tackle. He's going to earn himself some damn good money if he keeps on playing and getting better there at that position. Because just let him learn and get better. But I like what I saw from D-Wash, and got to see just some more Kyle Morlock and some passing game after we heard such good things about him in the fall camp. Got to utilize him in the red zone if you can get there. You just utilize him.
At least make him think you're going to throw it to him before you hand it off. Something.
Yeah, and you've got height there. You didn't have that. You had that a ton last year. You don't have that much anymore, and Kyle Morlock brings that. So
yeah, he was a mismatch. I mean, their secondary went over it ad nauseum. I mean, 6 foot. That's not a tiny corner, but I mean, he had lots of height on those guys for sure.
Yeah. So there's a lot to look offensively, defensively. Got to see 7 Marvin Jones Jr. get shake back into things. There's something I saw firsthand and practice in spring. He's better than what we saw on Saturday. A lot of these guys are better. Everybody, offensively, defensively. Joshua Farmer's better than what we saw. Darrell Jackson should be better. Pat Payton isn't going to be Jared Verse, but there's players that are better than what we saw Saturday. And that's my theme of it going into Monday night. They can shut us all up and dominate this game if they want to against Boston College. It isn't going to be easy, but you're at home, you're at night. Take advantage of it and show us who you actually are. And they're phased out by that Ireland game. International games, no more, please. Let's stick to domestic beers only.
I'm with it.
Yeah, well, even though the fan base gets thrown all over the place emotionally by one game, and even College Football Nation obviously overreacts, and that's just the nature of sports fans. Vegas doesn't get swayed by one game. They pretty much. They stay with what they know, and they stay with their preseason evaluation. So it takes 2 or 3 of these to really shake them. So they still have Florida State at -17 against BC with a 50.5 over under. So what are we looking at? Maybe like 33-17, something like that is what they're looking at. 33-16, 34-17, 34-17, I guess is what the final score they're looking at.
Yeah, I was in, we had yeah, no, I mean, now we've got Hard Rock here in Tallahassee. I've been not in Tallahassee, but in Florida, so we can do our sports betting legally. I'm not going across seas anymore, so now we can just sit here and just evaluate, can we make what kind of picks are we making here? And I don't know, a lot of the Bucks beat down here after practice today that were, of course, they like to give me crap, but they're going with BC. But it's an interesting. It's way too far of a line. But after what we saw, sorry, but somebody knows something. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm gonna have to make some bets and do our segment tomorrow. But I got to shake up what I said last week. I definitely blew my parlay that I had. It was not good.
Bunch of those got busted last week. There's no doubt. Like, I would never vote against or bet against Florida State. It just, there's too many things out there. Maybe I'll vote for them in certain instances, but I don't even like doing that because I don't want to be thinking about the money when I'm just trying to watch the game. But 17 points, yeah, I'd have no problem telling anybody out there, take that right now. Vegas might be right. They don't overreact. Florida State is liable to bounce back. It is at home. You're going to see these things get reduced. Mike Norvell is a great coach. Like, they're going to figure some things out. We did run into a Georgia Tech team who was damn good on the day. But yeah, 17 points. I mean, that's asking a lot. That's asking you to get it all together and keep it completely throughout the game and keep that lead. That's like, yeah, bet that 17 points. Sorry, FSU fan.
Yeah.
George knows I thought about pulling the trigger on Georgia Tech with an outright upset. I talked about it. I produced a video and said, this is what Georgia Tech needs to do to win this game. And I sounded like a prophet because everything I said came true. I said DJ and a young receiving core, they're not going to be in sync necessarily. Georgia Tech's got an underrated offensive line that's like a top 10 or 15 offensive line in the country. And Jamal Haynes coming back as a 1,000-yard rusher. And they've improved their defensive line, even though they sucked last year trying to stop the run. They should be improved. They got a kicker who hit 17 of 19. And maybe FSU fans, you should be mad at me because I said, don't be surprised if this guy hits a game winner on Saturday. But no, I didn't. I'm not going to say I picked Georgia Tech to win because I did not. I'm on the record picking Florida State, but I did say take those 10.5 points, gobble them up, and take
I thought so too. Yeah, I thought so too. I knew it'd be definitely closer than what Vegas. I mean, look back at the last couple of games over there. That would be in Ireland, usually close. And to me, there's just a lot of question marks for FSU to have to answer for that to happen and for Florida State to win in a really comfortable fashion. So I had actually, I did have 30. I had 30. See, but I sent it. I went, I think it was 34-17. But then the week prior, though, I had, when we were not hearing so great of things with the offense, I did have Ryan Fitzgerald winning by a field goal. So should have just been like, oh, well, that's just things that you hear and things that you think are going to happen on Saturdays and they just don't. But you know what? That's college football, and that's why we love it, and that's why we're on here talking about it, and that's why everybody's hanging out with us.
Ryan Fitzgerald had a good week.
I was just going to say, I predicted it perfectly up until the halfway through the third quarter. Like, I picked their points, 24 points, but we were supposed to run away and score. At the end, it didn't. So anyway, sorry.
I was at 28-20 FSU.
It just never happened. We never turned the corner. We never wore them down like we were supposed to. We never put their freshmen on the field. They did. It was 2017 Jimbo, 53 to 57 plays, baby. And they hit it on the nuts, exactly what they had to do.
Yeah.
7 possessions each team. Yeah, they took the air out of the ball. George, you talked about that before the game. That's what they're going to try to do. And
hit them on the dot. Crazy. 53 and 57. I said 53 to 57. I think that's exactly what it was.
All right, Logan, we appreciate you being here. We want to make sure that everybody knows where to find you and everything that you've got going on.
I appreciate it. We're NoleGameDay.com. Just a lot of content going there. And then we're live usually on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. But, of course, with the game being moved or it's on Monday night, we'll be doing it tomorrow night. So just give us an extra day to get over to practice and see what's going on and see who's, going to be available and everything. And likely, I think Florida State's scraped by that game pretty healthy, which is a good thing if you're coming out of it there and trying to find some positives. So, but yeah, we'll be live on Thursday night, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Looking back at this game, a little bit of Georgia Tech, then we're going to adjust and get ready to preview this BC game and get ready for a fun night in Doak Campbell Stadium. Looking forward to be back up there in Tallahassee. And yeah, I appreciate you, George and Mark, for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Before you go, I just do want to give you a shout out. Like Logan, been following your stuff for everybody. You're like the one outlet that's you came up independent. You've done it kind of like the new era media way, but the stuff you've done with Sports Illustrated and expanding is great. But you're like one of the only people that actually does stuff with former players and people just like on their merits of graphic design or writing articles or whatever the case may be. And props to you for that. Because when you look at, not to name any names of different casts of the big players around there, it's not. So I love the way y'all do things, and coming to the what was it, the tailgate for the spring game and bring Emily and what you do with her. I think besides Jen, I think she's the only other female that really covers the beat. So just awesome stuff, and appreciate you joining us.
And I appreciate those kind of words, George. Thank you so much. Mark gave me a chance to come on here and try to grow our platform. Like you said, we come from independent. I still have that kind of mentality that we're still independent and try to do our own thing. Luckily, we're, got the partnership with SI, who have been great to us, but we still, I go back to my people that gave me chances early on, and Mark was one of those, and there's a handful of other people, but I also do know where I came from, and I came independently, and it's not the easiest thing to do, and it's not the easiest thing to do to get credentialed and get into the space of any college team. But, just being with the people that were with you at first and having the loyalty, I think, is what goes the longest of ways. And any way that I can help anybody kind of just grow and what they want to dream and become, I'm always there to and get after it. But I'm highly competitive. I like, we have phenomenal outlets that cover Florida State. It's crazy how good they are, but it makes everybody better. Iron sharpens iron. And either you can complain about it and whine about it, or you can just put your head down and get after that blank. I'm not cussing. Promise, Mark, I'm not cussing, but you just got to get after it. And it's just like James Coleman, the same way, you just got to get after that mess. And I've been just super grateful for, these last couple of years, and hopefully the next few years, never know what's going to happen. So I appreciate the kind words, George, and also Mark, for having me on here.
Absolutely. You were here from episode number 1 on through most of this deal.
Where's Jason? Where's Jason at? He's hiding. He's in hiding. We have not heard. We're going to have to do a reunion show whenever a number hits whenever you hit that, maybe that 300. Maybe when you hit 300.
Because Jason would have had Norvell out on the street after like 21 games. After that Willie Taggart mark, Norvell needed to be gone.
I saw him somewhere. Did I see him at the spring game?
Probably, I think he was there.
It was the spring game, or maybe it was one of the games last year. I'm not sure, but
he creeps around.
I only got to do a couple with you, Jason. Come back, man.
He would give it to all the Miami fans and the Florida fans, and so then that would be about 50% of the viewership. So if you want some extra Miami, we've learned from our instant reaction, about 80% of that was Miami and Florida fans and trolls. So I'll take the viewership. Just, how it is, Mark. We'll take the viewership. Come on, baby. I want all the comments. I want all the views. Bring it, baby. I don't have any problem with it.
This is my first experience of like turmoil and everything goes wrong and you get engagement from that. It's a bit of a surprise. Like you said, you keep hustling.
Oh yeah, we keep rolling, baby. We just get ready for week 1 in Doak Campbell Stadium. Let's get it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Logan, for making it work this week.
Absolutely. Thank y'all. Have a great rest of y'all's evening.
You too.
See you guys.
Logan Robinson, Nole Game Day. Great stuff there. Appreciate you chiming in there, George.
Oh, and thanks to you, Mark, man. You same as for him. You gave me an opportunity. I told you a couple people were in my DMs. I don't think it was anything you said. I think maybe because you do so many other shows, some of the other, so they were responding to that. So I had all these. Mark's got these people saying all this stuff on the show. I was like, did you watch our show the past 2 days? Like, what could they have said worse? It's like, oh my goodness. I had to tell people the story. It's like, man, my first ever video podcast was the Voice of College Football. Before I even had the Renegade Rundown or did a video podcast on my channel, it was all audio up to that point. So it was, giving me the post-game show and pushing me to get my studio ready and get ready and all that stuff. That was you. So definitely appreciative. And everybody that's kind of built it on their own, there's a kinsmanship there, and it's changing. you see what Robert Griffin III did with his first episode with Dion. You know, he's got 150,000 subscribers and 200,000 views and counting and all that stuff. So beautiful stuff as another mogul joins the show. Big
Yeah, look
game,
at this
game,
guy
game.
stopping by.
And my
Big
bad.
game.
I wish I could have came earlier, man. We got a pretty good football team that I'm coaching right now, full of some studs. We had to get a little bit of straightening today. So sorry about that. I saw Logan was on.
Yeah, we pulled Logan out of retirement from the voice of college football to mix it up. Take a little heat after the loss.
Yeah. Losses happen.
Yeah, losses happen, James. So give us the balanced look at the good and the bad, and not the end of the world, maybe.
I mean, well, I went back and I watched it, did a good breakdown. You know, really what it comes down to is a lot of selfish play. And not pristine conditions, but you know, typically, you know, that's no excuses. You know, there's plays where guys just fell when the number was called, more so in defense, not being able to get yourself off the field. And then offensively, you know, you got a drop by Cam Davis. You've got a couple misreads, not just running it, but throwing it. Like, for example, there was we call it a rail route at Mandarin. But basically just a go route out of the backfield with the running back. Toafili was there. They brought pressure. He could have probably peeked to the right. I think the wide receiver, Jalen Brown, was there for you to be able to throw it there. But if he throws it more center of the field and allows Toafili to run up under it as opposed to putting it right on the money, you probably get a better catch, get a first down. But that's easy for me to say from the comfort of my home with no rain and no big people coming running at me. So, but I'll say the biggest critique, and I love how Mike took accountability. And this is probably one of the more times I've been more critical of Mike in his game planning. It was incredibly arrogant and lacked urgency. And I think they oversimplified it. And my thought is, if DJU, which I don't believe this is an indictment on DJU, but if you don't believe you can open up the game with DJU, then put Luke or Brock back there. But you needed to do something to force Georgia Tech out of a ground and pound mentality and make Haynes King feel like he had to throw the ball. And we never put them in an uncomfortable situation. So that's really where I'll go. But I do know this: if you give up 21 points in would it be 59 minutes and 59 seconds of regulation, you should not lose a game in this day and age of college football. Obviously, they kicked the field goal, got it in 124, but they just, you know, it's some things. It's not the end of the world. And I told people I'll hold my judgments after Monday. If they come out and play the same exact way as they played on Monday, then you have to sit at the table. You have to be realistic, and you have to step back and say, you know what, is this a 7-8 win team? If they beat Boston College in the manner in which I believe they're talented enough to do, then you have to go back and ask yourself, okay, you know, well, what was the difference between the two games? And that's kind of just where this Florida State team is at. But I'll still rest on me saying that this is more like the 2022 iteration of Florida State than the 2023, which I believe that they're a championship caliber team because there's a 12-team playoff. If there was no 12-team playoff, I would just be saying, you know what? Okay, I think they're a team that in November should be hovering around the opportunity to play in the ACC championship, which I still believe that they could do. But I don't, you know, this isn't a national championship team.
Unfortunately, I asked Logan earlier. There's been a lot of talk about Alex Atkins not being there. And like the coaching thing, I think it's been talked about a lot by everybody. But the one thing I haven't really been like heard talked about, you think maybe if Alex was there, he would have the ability to walk up to Norvell and maybe say, hey, let's change this game plan. I know this is what we planned on, but maybe we need to attack coming out of half that Gabe doesn't have or whoever's left over have. Maybe that was kind of a thing that was missing on the sideline, even though Mike calls the plays.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect thing. Obviously, you know, you'd be arrogant to not think that has something to do with it. One of the problems that every coach that runs into that calls plays You can't be a head coach. There's things like you got to be able to yell at the players. You got to be able to look at clock management. You got to be able to do those things. And you saw Mike, I think personally, Mike fumbled the bag on the last drive of the first half with time management. We had almost 3 minutes, if I remember correctly. No, excuse me. No, it was 2 minutes. It was 2 minutes on the head, and we had 3 timeouts, and we're really running like we got 4. Like we're running 4-minute up, and you need to be pushing the ball down the field, trying to score a touchdown. I mean, I'm glad they left with 3 points to tie it up, but that was just piss poor. And I also think having another guy with another set of eyes, and this isn't no knock on Gabe, but his job was probably to coach the offensive lineup. Whereas Alex Atkins' job is not only to coach the offensive line, but understand game strategy and things that you need to put into place. And they didn't have anybody like that. But what I would have done is the minute we stopped them, because we stopped them twice in the third quarter, and we put no points up on the board, but our offense was very conservative and uninspiring. That would have been when I actually just said, you know what, you're going to have to show me that you're going to be able to consistently get us on one-on-one coverage. And our wide receivers at that point were making tough catches, which they have been making drops all offseason. Let the media tell it. I just think there was a lack of fire from the top down, and I think that's why you lost that game. You can point to a lot of X's and O's, but the reality is, you did not force Georgia Tech's hand.
I got one more for James real quick, if you'll allow it. We talked a lot. I think I heard you on your channel talk about it. Even Adam Fuller talked about it today. The depth chart is the same. It still has Marvin and Pat on the opposite ends, and Lolo Haya down the depth chart. I've heard several people. I think myself watching back, like he was far and away the one that was actually setting the edge. What you think they pop out with him on one side and or with Marvin or Pat Payton, or is it just like they just, as much as they have wrapped up in those guys, they're going to leave them in the spots? It just seems like with like the combinations we've had, whether it be McClendon and Verse, or then Verse and Payton, when Verse had more power, you've had a power guy and a rush guy. It just seems like we've got 2 rush guys, which, Marvin's a crazy athlete. It just seems like it'd be better to keep those guys fresh and then maybe bring them out together on a 3rd and long or whatever the case may be. But I was a little bit surprised they didn't have any switch up there. But again, that depth chart doesn't necessarily mean it. I
don't think Marvin Jones did that bad of a job setting edge. I think the problem was when we needed a pass rush, we weren't able to get home on the last drive where, again, kudos to Haynes King for standing in the pocket, taking the hits. You had your opportunities. I think a lot more could be said about linebackers not spilling. When you have a guard pulling. I saw somebody, and it's cute. I saw a FSU podcast try to break down what Georgia Tech did well and the different things of that nature. What's supposed to happen defensively especially when you have 2 pullers, you have a guard coming down. A spill is going to force or a wrong shoulder is going to force the guard to have to do what they call a seal, as opposed to kick out. They were saying that of course, you want to kick out. I want to do a lot of things. I want to be, 235 pounds like I was my sophomore year in college. But if I don't work out, it's not going to happen. And I don't stop eating cheeseburgers, it's not going to happen. Sometimes you have to adjust and find out what you can do. And that's what the seal is. Now, what's supposed to happen is the guy who's the second puller is supposed to be reading that. And you either go up inside of the block or you go around the block. And what Georgia Tech did, their guys sold out on the run. So like they weren't playing nothing else but that damn run. 44, you saw him like literally. If there was a run motion, he was attacking downhill, which is why I suggested that you attack the middle of the field. They made their game plan a lot more simple, and those guys were just running. Whereas our guys were thinking too much. And I don't understand why they were thinking too much, because Haynes King is not he's not your traditional quarterback. As much as people keep picking on DJU, DJU didn't lose us the game, but Haynes King didn't win them the game. Haynes King didn't lose them the game. Quarterback play is not why Florida State lost that. Florida State lost that game because of a lack of physicality and a lack of being fundamentally sound. And while Patrick Payton, we can look at the tight end blocking him, And I think that's legitimate, and we can look at different things. But the reality is our defense was not playing downhill and filling. And our defense was not getting off the field on 3rd and long. And that's losing football. Again, DJU scored with 6 minutes and 40 seconds left in the football game. I had Big Leon Searcy stop by the show, former Kane great. And even he couldn't troll. Like there's no point in real football do you feel you score with 6 minutes and 40 seconds left and you don't get the ball back. That's why they don't call it 6 minute O. They call it 4 minute O for a reason. That's a long 4 minutes is a long time to have the football. 6 minutes and 40 seconds is an eternity. One possession in 21 minutes. In 21 minutes of football, not 21 life minutes, 21 minutes of football is an hour. That's a long time to only have the ball once. And I think when you step back and you just watch it for what it is, you're not trying to troll, you're not trying to cry and do all these different things. It was a piss poor physical effort by Florida State. And that happens. It's happened on the 93 team when they played Notre Dame. It happened. They also played Kansas that year to a lot closer game than they wanted to. There's all kind of games that it happens, man. You just can't let it be your identity by letting it happen in multiple weeks in a row. They got a great opportunity against Boston College to come out and reestablish who it is they are. And each week they're going to get the opportunity to reestablish what they are. And I think people was, as the old people, my old parents would say, we were just smelling ourselves a little bit. Everybody got their NIL deals. Everybody got, was feeling like the high and the vibes and the positivity. And now you needed a little adversity. Well, you sure as hell created some adversity for yourself. So hopefully they get it together.
There we go, folks. We're here every Wednesday, 6 Eastern. George is here from the Renegade Report. Get on over there, check out George's work. And, of course, as you hear from Big Game James Coleman, Den Media Group. And look at this. Little entry here from Chris Frazier, Spear Addicts. Chris, what's going on?
How's it going, y'all?
We are holding it down. How are you?
Busy, but alive, so good.
Appreciate you stopping by. Give us your couple-minute take on where you are on the spectrum of sky is falling or everything's just fine.
Sky's not falling. I just got off the phone with Rob Scott and DJ and a couple other ones, and we'll just say that they're extremely disappointed in their performance that happened against Georgia Tech in Ireland. The coaching staff was extremely disappointed in how we came out and played, especially in the second half. But there's not a question on the coaching staff nor a question with inside the guys that just was not them that came out there and played. So I'm going to take their word for it because based off of scrimmages and everything else that's happened, and based off of when you got coaches like Nick Saban saying they look like they have a 5 top personnel team in the country, and it just we didn't show up. We played very poorly. People didn't follow their assignments, and I think we're going to see a completely different Florida State football team come Monday versus Boston College. And it's not just out of want or hope. It's just listening to the guys talk about everything that they didn't do against Georgia Tech, and they knew better, and they just, I guess, got caught up in the situation and didn't achieve what they wanted to. So no, the sky's definitely not falling. They got to get it together. Talking about it's great, but doing it is the only thing that fixes it. So, and that's their motto for this week is get it done, do your job, do it, be about it, don't talk about it. I know there's a lot of mottos there, but they're all in the same aspect of doing your job and completing what you're supposed to complete and win the football game first and foremost. Do your best is required. It's an expectation, not necessarily a choice. So Coach Norvell had a lot to say to the guys at halftime. And then after the game, there was a lot more that was had to be said. So I think this first week back, there's been some extreme differences in practice versus what the practices were before leading up to Georgia Tech. These guys are very disappointed in themselves and said that they don't want to feel that way again. They don't want to let each other down. They don't want to let themselves down. And they don't want to let Florida State down as the university or the fan base. So it's one of those things, we can look at it and hopefully by the end of the season we go, the guys needed, to be humbled. They needed to wake up, and this is what did it, because that's what they believe. They believe that they may have took, their ability for granted, and they didn't give the effort necessary to do what was needed. So I like all the words that are coming from them. And usually when this team, like the Rob Scotts, the DJ Lundys, and the guys that have been here, when they start speaking the way that they're speaking, then we're in pretty good shape. So I think, we'll definitely see versus Boston College what this team is made of. Can they get this weird loss out of their way and let it be the only one? That's their objective. That's what they want to accomplish. So I'm gonna stick with my guys, win, lose, or draw. But I think there's gonna be a lot of winning this season still. We just had to get the loss out of the way. Just let it be. Can't do nothing about what you didn't do. You can only do about what you can do next. So I think they're going to be willing, and I think there's going to be a lot of effort for the rest of the season, and it's gonna cause a lot of success. So I'm happy with the team, and I'm happy with the way they're responding so far. But the true response comes to your next opponent. So I'm ready to see the response that we have as a football program. I think that it's going to be good.
We just have a minute or two. Chris, since we lean on you for the recruiting angle for the most part, if this turns into a 3-2 start, a 5-3 halfway or past midway point, that, a more of a sluggish season. Like James said, if they don't perform against Boston College, maybe you look at this team as more of an 8-4, 7-5 team than what we all expected. At what point does that possibly start to sour the recruiting class coming in?
Well, I'll be completely honest with you. It's going to be a lot based on the effort that's given. I think that it's already started. The recruits that are verbally committed to Florida State don't understand the same thing the rest of us didn't understand why we performed the way that we did. They know that Coach Norvell's high energy. They know that the expectations for them in this year are as high as they have been. So there are recruits asking questions of what happened, and they're not asking coaches. They're asking players, what transpired for this to take place. And I love the way that our former Noles are speaking up to the team as well. But I really like the way that our current guys are speaking to the recruits as far as, look, we may have taken a couple of things for granted, and we lowered our expectations in the moment, and we should have never done that, and we're not going to make that mistake again. So, I mean, if this team, I don't think they will, but if this team was a 7-5 team, you're going to lose some valuable pieces for sure. 8-4, I don't think that one game makes a huge difference, but you definitely don't lose two guys that I would be worried about in this class. But if you get 9 wins or better, I don't think you lose maybe just one. But I would say that the way that the current team is talking to the recruits is a big factor in keeping them honed in on Florida State.
What's the word at Spear Addicts these days? Chris, you with us? Okay. Den Media Group, James.
Well, we got over 6,000 a couple weeks ago. We just gave away a pair of tickets to the Boston College game. Might have another pair to give away on Wednesday's show. We got a ton of content up there. We broke down the debacle on Tuesday. We'll be breaking down Boston College film tomorrow, as well as doing a preview of Florida, Miami. Anybody wants to watch that? Non-biased here. I don't have a dog in the fight. I want both of them to lose. So I'm going to watch it and just say, hey, here's what I believe the teams do well. We had Big Leon Searcy on the show today, Miami legend. It was awesome. Good guy, good friend. And, outside of that, we got a new channel out of Den Media Group, trying to be like Mark Rogers, but for high school. Mandarin University. So a lot of people hear a lot about Mandarin High School, one of the top programs in the state of Florida, currently ranked 6th. We'll be doing a lot of uploading a lot of things. Once we get that to 1,000 subs, we'll start doing live streams of the game, but there'll be a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Got a docu-series that we're working on, the guys, and we just did a uniform reveal. So we have the first of 3 sets of uniforms finally came in today. So our guys, we'll have that posted up here shortly today, so everybody can check that out and get your Mandarin High School. If you like, we got a Miami commit, a Florida State commit, and a commit on August 30th, a 5-star wide receiver. So that would be Jamie French will be committing. We'll have that live streamed as well on Den Media Group, so people can watch that ceremony on Friday. It should be fun.
Yeah, a lot of talk surrounding Jamie French. Definitely double F. George, Renegade Report. Oh, you're muted.
Man, rookie mistake. But yeah, we're busy. We're taking a couple of days off, but we'll be back Friday with the Renegade Rundown, 7 Eastern as usual. And then Sunday and Tuesday. So that's Sundays, Tuesdays, and Fridays with the Renegade Rundown at 7 Eastern. Also the Renegade Roast on Mondays. Jen and Tiny Hat host that thing. Have a ton of fun Mondays at 9:15. Trying to do a lot more of the shorter stuff, getting a lot of reels and things out there, doing some little videos. We get with Plant the Spear, maybe get with James or Chris here and there and do some of those shorter videos. So just keeping it going and always trying to upgrade the channel. We appreciate everybody. We're trying to get to 3,000 subs here in the next couple weeks. So help us get there, guys. It's at the Renegade Report.
And once again, it's Chris at Spear Addicts again. George, James, Chris getting the job done for us here at the Voice of College Football as usual. I got to run. We got a Florida-Miami breakdown on the Miami channel coming up like 3 minutes ago. So I am off to reverse the clock and start at 7 p.m. Eastern time there. I got an 8 o'clock with Zach Smith on the main channel. We got a Georgia Clemson live preview at 9. So busy night here at the Voice of College Football. See you guys later. Thanks for being here. And next Wednesday, we'll be back.